In the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire under Kublai Khan towered over half the known world. Having toppled once mighty dynasties and subjugated vast territories, its cavalry and naval powers had no equal. Rumors spread that Japan, a cluster of islands guarded by legions of samurai, was next on the Mongols' list of conquests. Yet many observers believed that tiny Japan couldn't possibly withstand the all-consuming tide of Mongol dominance. On the small island of Tsushima, a stepping stone between Korea and Japan's main islands, local samurai had other ideas. They trained amid rocky shores, forging a unique brand of warfare that took advantage of every crevice and cliff. Their mission was simple: stand as the first line of defense and buy time for the rest of Japan to brace itself. No one suspected these defenders would do more than delay the invaders. Yet Tsushima would become a flashpoint for one of the most gripping, unexpected showdowns in East Asian history. Over the course of a few desperate days, a humble band of warriors would rattle the mighty Mongol war machine. As the Mongol invasion fleet emerged on the horizon, the samurai steeled themselves for an onslaught like none they had ever witnessed. What they could not predict, however, was how fiercely nature itself would join the fight. And when this clash concluded, the implications would echo through centuries, reminding future generations that willpower and cunning can sometimes outweigh sheer numbers. Before the battle, Kublai Khan's empire stretched from Eastern Europe to the edges of the Pacific. The Mongols' ability to coordinate mounted archers, siege weapons, and powerful navies seemed nearly unstoppable. Their foes often folded beneath the terrifying combination of horse-mounted skirmishes, bombarded fortifications, and swift amphibious landings. Kublai Khan's ambitions led him to seize Korea, from which he planned to launch the invasion of Japan. Reports spoke of massive shipyards churning out hundreds of vessels, flat-bottom transports capable of hauling cavalry, infantry, and advanced explosives. The Khan sent emissaries to the imperial court in Kyoto, demanding Japan's submission. When his letters went unanswered, he treated the silence as open defiance. These preparations alarmed the Japanese, who scrambled to gather intelligence through merchants and sailors returning from the Korean coast. Whispers of Mongol bombs and unstoppable cavalry spread through the provinces, sowing both dread and determination. Officials warned that Tsushima, perilously close to Korea, would be the first to feel the brunt of this unprecedented assault. Yet the Mongol High Command may have underestimated Tsushima's defenders. They believed the local samurai would engage conventionally, forming lines that Mongol archers could shatter. Unbeknownst to them, those samurai had been perfecting ambush tactics, studying terrain advantages, and embracing a mindset where no outcome but victory or honorable death mattered. On paper, the Mongols seemed destined for success. Their war drums, horns, and disciplined ranks typically sowed terror wherever they appeared. But Japan's coastline would pose significant challenges, and the samurai harbored an unbreakable resolve. The stage was set for a confrontation that would define the Mongols' campaign and Japan's enduring spirit. Tsushima's samurai were few in number. Some chronicles say only around 80 to 200. Nevertheless, they were bound by the code of Bushido, placing honor and duty above their own lives. Generations of defending this windswept island against pirates had honed their familiarity with craggy beaches, hidden trails, and natural choke points. They often trained at dawn, drawing their bows until their arms quivered, then drilling with curved katanas until the blades felt like extensions of their own bodies. They forged plans for guerrilla warfare should a massive force arrive, collecting arrows in stockpiles and clearing hidden footpaths for quick retreats. These samurai were not alone. The island's villagers and fishermen were ready to offer whatever help they could: provisions, hiding spots, and occasional scouting. Some accounts suggest they might have had help from Korean informants displeased with the Mongol yoke, though this remains unproven. What mattered was that Tsushima's defenders possessed a unity of purpose. Every fighter knew their stand here could spare countless lives on Japan's main islands. Above all, they refused to contemplate surrender. Many wrote death poems expressing acceptance of their fate. The notion of giving in to the invaders simply did not exist in their worldview. When the time came, they would fight with unwavering courage, drawing on everything they'd learned from both tradition and the island's rugged terrain. As the Mongol ships glided into view, Tsushima's guardians lit signal fires across cliff tops, warning the entire island. Nearby, villagers fled inland, but the warriors calmly moved into prearranged positions. Their plan wasn't to hold the beaches in a large formation. It was to lure the Mongols into a labyrinth of narrow paths and forested gorges. In these tight quarters, numbers mattered less, and local knowledge mattered more. Drums thundered across the water as Mongol soldiers disembarked in the early morning light. They arrived in force: Korean infantry, Chinese engineers, and Mongol heavy cavalry. Expecting an easy takeover, they advanced inland with confidence. Yet instead of lines of samurai waiting on open sand, they found eerie, deserted terrain. Suddenly, arrows rained down from elevated positions. Samurai emerged from behind rocks and within tree lines, striking the forward ranks. Mongol officers shouted commands to organize a traditional cavalry push, but the terrain refused to cooperate. Horses slipped on rocky outcrops, while narrow trails prevented large-scale maneuvers. Desperate to force the defenders into open ground, the Mongols turned to their terrifying bombs. The blasts shattered shrubs, scattered debris, and unleashed shrieking clouds of smoke, but mostly struck empty forest. The defenders knew exactly when to retreat, reposition, and reappear on a distant ridge. The shock of confronting an enemy who vanished as quickly as he struck began eroding Mongol morale. At one point, an elite Mongol contingent led by a minor prince advanced towards a small settlement, hoping to establish a command post. Within moments, hidden samurai swarmed them. The prince reportedly escaped with only a fraction of his retinue, a humiliation rarely seen in the Mongol chronicles. By midday, the invaders had secured no solid beachhead. Their forces were fragmented, searching in vain for a decisive engagement. Late that evening, scattered skirmishes raged along Tsushima's ridges. Smoke from bomb blasts and brush fires clouded the setting sun. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Mongols found themselves stuck, lacking the open battlefield they preferred. All the while, the samurai exploited the terrain they knew intimately, weakening the enemy with each swift attack. Nature intervened on the second day. Dark clouds, driven by fierce autumn winds, converged over Tsushima. By afternoon, torrential rain hammered both land and sea, and the Mongol fleet began to reel under brutal conditions. Anchored too close to hazardous coastlines, many ships struggled to maintain position in the mounting waves. Samurai raiding parties used small fishing boats to carry out night strikes on the invaders' vessels. Under the cover of driving rain, they set fires on deck, slashed ropes, and fled before the Mongols could rally a counterattack. With poor visibility in the howling gale, flaming ships drifted out of control, colliding with neighboring vessels. The chaos intensified as the storm worsened, evolving into what some sources later called a kamikaze, or divine wind. While modern historians see it as a typical typhoon or severe storm, the samurai believed they were witnessing a literal act of providence. From the Mongol perspective, it was a nightmare. unstoppable gusts and towering waves crashing into a disorganized fleet, forcing their troops ashore in even more precarious positions. On land, the defenders pressed the advantage. They harassed disoriented Mongol units who sought shelter from the storm in hastily built camps. Cut off from their naval support, many Mongol groups found themselves surrounded. The island's defenders, outnumbered but coordinated, began scoring decisive blows with calculated ambushes. As the third day dawned, battered Mongol ships listed near Tsushima's coast, or had vanished beneath the waves. Fires smoldered among beached debris. Commanders conferred on makeshift rafts, debating whether to withdraw or sacrifice more men in a fight that had spiraled beyond their control. The extraordinary defense of Tsushima left numerous mysteries. First, historians quarrel over the exact size of the Mongol force. Some sources claim 50,000 or more. Others suspect the numbers were exaggerated, either to magnify Japan's triumph or to preserve Mongol pride. We may never know the precise tally of soldiers and ships. Likewise, the number of defenders is debated. While many accounts reference a few hundred samurai, some mention additional irregulars, fishermen, local volunteers, or even foreign sailors who defected. There are also stories of Korean shipbuilders quietly sabotaging their own vessels, leading to catastrophic failures when the storm hit. These details remain shrouded in rumor and fragmented records. Archaeological findings have confirmed certain parts of the story. Wrecked Mongol-era vessels were discovered around Tsushima, along with bomb casings and arrowheads. Analysis of ship timbers shows signs of rushed construction, supporting the theory that subpar craftsmanship may have magnified the storm's impact. Another point of contention is how Tsushima's defenders managed supply lines and morale. Did local peasants shift supplies into hidden caches, ensuring the samurai never ran out of arrows or rations? How did they communicate across the island under constant bombardment? Modern reconstructions of Tsushima's signal fires offer some answers, but many questions linger. What is clear is that this was no mere coincidence of events. Tsushima's defense fused local knowledge, bold tactics, and a sudden tempest that nearly annihilated the Mongols' strategic advantage. The result was a confrontation that stunned the empire, used to winning every major battle it waged. News of the Mongol retreat from Tsushima reverberated throughout Japan. Word spread that a handful of determined warriors had halted the dreaded Mongol Empire. Jubilation mixed with relief in Kyoto, where many believed the invaders would march unhindered. The emperor sent envoys bearing honors and gifts to Tsushima, recognizing the islanders' valor. In the wake of victory, Japan's military doctrine underwent a transformation. Coastal fortifications multiplied, and samurai strategists documented every tactic used on Tsushima, especially the art of striking swiftly, then melting back into rough terrain. When the Mongols returned years later with an even larger force, they found a Japan better equipped and more unified than ever before. It's no accident that the second invasion, too, ultimately ended in ruin for the Khan's ambitions. For Kublai Khan, the Tsushima failure represented a bitter humiliation. Determined to avenge this embarrassment, he allocated vast resources to building a new invasion fleet. His obsession with conquering Japan placed enormous strain on the empire's treasury and morale. Some believe that these efforts indirectly accelerated the Yuan dynasty's decline as it faced internal dissent and overextension abroad. Within Japan, the defense of Tsushima soon became a symbol of national pride. Scrolls depicted samurai battling overwhelming odds, sometimes alongside divine images symbolizing the kamikaze storm. Over time, the island's legend melded historical facts with mythic reverence. samurai lines recited the names of those who fell as examples of Bushido in its purest form. Generations later, Tsushima would remain a cornerstone tale for anyone seeking proof that determination can triumph over raw might. The epic defense of Tsushima stands as a testament to unwavering resolve in the face of near-certain defeat. Armed with local knowledge, cunning tactics, and an unbreakable moral code, fewer than a few hundred samurai outmaneuvered and humiliated one of history's most formidable invading forces. Of course, luck and a savage storm played a role, but the defenders seized every advantage presented to them. This story resonates on multiple levels. It's a reminder that even a mighty empire can falter against a small, prepared opponent. It's also a lesson in leveraging terrain, morale, and specialized tactics. Above all, Tsushima exemplifies how determination and ingenuity can shape the future, even when the odds seem impossible. Legends often paint the storm as divine intervention, but credit also goes to the defenders' unity and fearless stance. When hope appeared faint, these warriors transformed adversity into opportunity, forging an outcome that shocked both friend and foe. The Mongol Empire, rattled by this stinging reversal, never fully recovered its aura of invincibility regarding the Japanese islands. In the end, Tsushima's defiance echoes as a defining moment in the saga of samurai culture. It reminds us how a small, isolated community can change the course of history through skill, courage, and a willingness to fight to the last breath. From the battered beaches and ruined Mongol ships rose a lesson that still resonates today. Never underestimate those who battle for more than just victory. Those who fight for the survival of everything they hold dear.